One of the common phrases in pop psychology is self-care. Self-care is about taking the time to do things that help you live well and improve your mental and emotional well-being. And while self-care can sound self-centered, think about it this way. When your plane is about to take off, the flight attendant will always instruct you to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping anyone else. And to do that wouldn't be selfish, it just means that to help others, you have to first help yourself. And I think this same idea is true mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In a world that's filled with exhaustion, stress, anxiety, and depression, we need daily, weekly, and yearly practices that are restorative and life-giving. We need self-care, or maybe a better way to put it, we need soul care. And this is exactly what we find in the life of Jesus. No one was more selfless, giving, and sacrificial than Jesus, but what fueled him was not mere self-motivation and hurry, but a meek and humble dependence on God. Jesus practiced solitude, often withdrawing to lonely places to pray and be renewed by God. He practiced slowing, never hurried, often taking the longer route to various locations. He observed Sabbath each week, resting from work and delighting in God's presence. And he practiced surrender, detaching himself from the material possessions and fully trusting in God to provide. Jesus didn't live a life of burnout and exhaustion. He lived a life of daily, weekly, and yearly practices that were restorative and life-giving. And it wasn't self-centered, it was soul-caring. Like putting on the oxygen mask, it was Jesus' way of breathing in the breath of heaven before breathing out life for the world. And it's this way of life that Jesus offers to us. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So Jesus says, if you're feeling burnt out and exhausted, always struggling with your mental, emotional health, come to me and I'll show you a better way of doing life. I'll offer you a different way to shoulder life's load. Not a life of busyness and hurry, but a life of meek and humble dependence on God. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no place for counseling, therapy, medication, and other interventions. These can be extremely helpful tools for people experiencing varying degrees of mental illness. But perhaps the key to generational well-being is to reorder our lives around finding rest for our souls, taking up the daily, weekly, and yearly soul-caring practices of Jesus that allow us to breathe in the breath of heaven so that we, like him, can breathe out life for the world.